Hey guys, welcome to the New Commonwealth Schools. We are going to be talking for a few minutes about the difference between a homeschool group chairman or president and a principal mentor. So I'm just going to check in really quick and make sure everybody can hear me. Go ahead and say hi in the comments. And we also have something really special for you today. We've created a workbook for you to kind of follow along with the information that I'm going to give you. So we're going to be starting this as our very first in a series of 4 different Facebook Lives that we're going to do each Friday for the next today and then 3 more Fridays. And this workbook is going to be really helpful to you. So I'm going to let Benita, who's going to be on here with us, she is going to type out the URL where you can find the workbook. You can go to it and you can download it, print it out if you want real quick, or just follow along and it will help you if you don't have time to print it during this actual live video. You can print it out later, but just pulling it up on your computer or your phone will also help you to be able to follow along because there's some graphics in there. There's actually a couple of flowcharts that we're going to be talking about. So if you have that, that will be great. Let me see, Benita will be popping in here any second now. And hey, look, my grandma glasses. So this is me and this is grandma me. Actually, I'm grandma all the time and I love it. So we're just giving Benita a second to jump in here and she will be able to get that URL into the chat box. So that'll be awesome. I'm super excited. She is such an artist and I love working with her. I'm so glad she's on my team. I literally was on with her this morning for a couple of hours and as soon as we hung up, I know she doesn't, she knows that I just adore her, but I hung up and I just went, oh my gosh, I love her. I am so grateful. Like, what would I do without Benita? So I'll tell you, you guys, a great team is one of the most important things you can do. So if you're talking about a homeschool group, governing board, or even if it's not an official board, even if it's just your homeschool group's leadership team, whatever it is, when you know you can count on each other and you know what each other's strengths are, that's huge. That is such a big deal. So with Benita and I mean, I know this stuff inside out and we know that I've been doing it for forever, but she brings to it this person that I can bounce stuff off of and this artistry that she brings to everything. So whenever you see anything come out of New Commonwealth Schools and you go, oh, that's so pretty, that's because of her. So anyway, so watch for that. She's going to pop that URL into the chat box and that is going to be the workbook that we're going to be working on today and for the next 3 Fridays leading up to the actual event. So keep an eye open for that. She might be having a hard time getting in. This is all a little bit new to us. I've done a few Facebook Lives in the past, but not a ton. So, and asking her to come in as a team member and help me, that's a little bit new. So anyway, so I'm glad to have you guys on, glad to have you here. We are going to be talking about the differences, the 5 differences between the chairman of a homeschool group or a president, whichever one your group has, and the actual principal mentor, which I know a lot of you have probably never heard of a principal mentor before. Now, if you're a New Commonwealth School and you are one of my clients or you've been through training with me in the past, you know what a principal mentor is. You guys get it and you totally understand it. But for anybody who's new to me and the systems of a New Commonwealth School, that's what I'm here for right now today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the very basics of what is this thing? What is this person, this title that Brenda's calling a principal mentor? I want you to know how important they are. They are one of the most important roles in your homeschool group. Without a principal mentor, you are missing out on a level of quality and continuity in the education that you're offering to your students that you're going to regret. So it's like, you want this in your school. You want this person who this is their focus. So, oh, you know what I was supposed to do that I didn't actually do was I was supposed to print these slides out so that I could actually hold them up for you. So guess what we're going to do instead? I happen to have this handy dandy little cute Surface Pro. So I'm going to actually just hold up the screen for you. Let's see. I'm going to unplug this so we get started. Let's see if my cords fall to the floor. They usually do. I'm at my standing desk right now, and so it's really nice because I have a lot of energy when I'm talking to you guys, and it's nice to be able to stand instead of sit down while I'm chatting with you. Let me show you. So this is actually a copy of the workbook that you can go grab. That Benita put that URL in there. That's the front page, and then, whoops, who knows what I just did, right? Let's see. There we go. Okay, so that's the front page right here. There's a lot of glare going on. I'm really sorry. Okay, and then as you scroll up, one of the things that we're going to be talking about are the differences in a governing board of a homeschool group. So these two are for you guys to fill in with who's leading your group. And I'm going to go through that right now. So let me pull up the PowerPoint. It's so funny. I know there's probably a way to do this, and somebody could probably educate me. I'm pretty tech savvy. I'm more tech savvy than my kids, which my kids joke about that all the time, but I will tell you that I have my limits, and my limit right now is how to share slides with you while I'm on a Facebook Live. So anyways, let's start out with really understanding the roles of a chairman versus a principal mentor as far as where they fit in the flow of the leadership. Okay, so this is going to be, is it this one? Nope, we want the other one. There we go. So this might be a flow chart for the leadership of your group. So this is a pretty simple, let's see if we can get that in there for you. A pretty simple group. You've got a chairman or a president. You may or may not have a vice president. Every group is going to need a treasurer, and every group is going to need a secretary, regardless of how small or how big you are. So if you were to go back to that workbook, or even sketch this out on a piece of paper right now if you haven't had a chance to print out the workbook yet, I want you to draw a flow chart of what your school looks like, okay? And if your school has other people on the board or in the governing structure, go ahead and add that. I want to show you a little bit. Let's see if I can just, I went too far. I want to show you what it looks like for a new Commonwealth school. Okay, so new Commonwealth schools there's a lot of structure and a lot of systems involved in a new Commonwealth school because their design is to last 20 years or more. So the schools that I coach last a really, really long time. And so there's a lot of systems in there because they're going to rotate their presidents or chairman, whoever's the leader. It's not going to be the same leader for forever. And it's really important then to have the systems in place, have them written down, have written documents in order to keep the continuity of the school. So this is a new Commonwealth school, what the administrative board looks like. You've got your chairman, you've got your administrative co-chair, and your parent rep. And see the triangle between the three? Let's see if I can get this at the right angle for you. Those three people make up what we call the executive committee of the school. But the entire board adds more people on. You've got the treasurer here, the secretary there. You've also got a student council facilitator in there. And there's also a junior director. We're not going to go into that right now today because I think that's just going to get confusing at this point. So we're really just going to talk about that chairman and the principal mentor. Now, so if you want to fill those out in your workbook, like I said, we've got two different flow charts on there. One is the simple version of a homeschool group that you can actually add more bubbles on if you need to for your group. The other one is going to be a new Commonwealth school. So let me just really quick before I move on, I want to check on the chat, and I have to put my grandma glasses on. And awesome, Benita is taking care of everyone. Thank you so much. Oh, you guys, I see you. Jenny, Heather, oh, Rebecca, awesome. It is so fun to see you guys on. Thank you so much. It's great. So like I said, I don't do this that often, but we're going to do it today and for the next 3 Fridays after this as we lead up to just discussing a lot about the principal mentor, understanding what a principal mentor is, what they do. Now, if we want to go ahead and switch to the second page in your workbook, we're going to talk about what the chairman does versus what the principal mentor does, okay? Because they have very, very different jobs, and I want you to understand that. So the chairman, the number one most important thing that the chairman does in your homeschool group or president, whichever title you've chosen, is they protect and communicate the vision and mission of your group, okay? So your group is established for a reason. And I really hope that's written out. I hope that you have it in writing and it's something that is in some type of founding document that you share with everyone who comes newly into your group as a new member. Okay, they need to understand, what is the vision? What is the mission of this school? Why does the school exist? What I'm talking about is not homeschool groups that just come together for a year and do one project and then they dissolve. Those are awesome and they have their place. But we're going a little bit deeper into groups that are going to have a little bit more longevity, okay? So if you want to have longevity, then everybody in the group needs to understand why the group exists. So that vision and mission is the chairman's most important job. Protect it and communicate it out to all of the members, okay? Super, super important to make sure everybody's on the same page, right? A group works really, really well when everybody's united into one particular goal. And those vision statements and mission statements, those are the goal. That's the target that you're aiming for. Okay. So number 2, job of the chairman of the school is to hold the board meetings or the governing business meetings for the school at a consistent date and time. Okay. So they need to be holding board meetings at a consistent date and time throughout the school year. Now, it's up to you how often you need those. When I'm coaching my groups, I usually recommend that it's once a month on the same day of every month. So like the first Thursday from 1 to 3 at the library in the conference room. Okay, that would be an example, right? It doesn't really matter what day of the week. What matters is that every single month, the board or the governing group is getting together and they are checking in, okay, what has happened in the past with our school? How was last month? What do we need to be checking up on, or what do we need to correct? What information do we need to get out? And what's coming in the next couple of months that we need to be prepared for? Without that board meeting, your school's going to fall apart. You can have a treasurer, but if the treasurer never has to report to the board what the money situation is, then who knows what's going on, right? You can have a homeschool group that has a secretary, but if there's not anything for her to report to the membership and keep them in communication with what's going on the business level of the board, then you're going to fall apart. So those board meetings are super, super important. And the chairman, it is her responsibility to make sure that they happen. Now, she can delegate that out. A lot of times, I shouldn't have just put this away. I said this way. A lot of times within a new Commonwealth school, the chairman is going to delegate that, or it might even be delegated in the founding documents to the administrative co-chair. And she's the one who is going to make sure that the agenda is ready to go. I want that meeting organized. I don't want to waste anybody's time, right? And you're going to have to decide how long your board meetings are, or your business meetings, and what the agenda actually is. But I know that if you're a new Commonwealth school, we actually have a list of things that we give you that's a calendar that you guys go through every month. So in June, this is what you're doing. In July, this is what you're doing. In August. And some of you are like, oh my gosh, we're having meetings in the middle of the summer. Yeah, we are. Because you know what? What we're doing is so important. So important to these students and to these families. And it takes a little bit of work to get ready for the school year to start. So we don't even take a break during the summer. We keep going. Okay, number 3 for the chairman. Number 3 is the chairman is responsible for the forward momentum of the group. Okay, so that word you're going to fill in there in the workbook is momentum. They're responsible for the forward momentum of the group. They are the ones that need to start that flywheel turning. Now, if any of you guys are familiar with a flywheel, it's you get it started, it's really, really hard. It's big, it's heavy, and it's a series of gears and levers and stuff, and so it takes a lot of effort to get it started, right? But once you get it going, it starts going easier and more easily as you turn that crank around and around until it starts whipping around really fast, okay? When you have that going, don't let it go. Capitalize on that momentum and keep your group moving forward, okay? So that is the responsibility of the chairman. Number 3, responsible for the forward momentum of the group. You'll find all this in your workbook, okay? So Benita, can you pop that URL in one more time? Anybody who just joined, you can run over into your browser and you can download that workbook really quick. Okay, now let's talk about the principal mentor, because that's the one that's kind of a little different for a homeschool group that's out there that's not familiar with some of the systems of a Commonwealth school, okay? The principal mentor has her own niche. So while the chairman is responsible, like we just talked about, like kind of this macro responsibility of being in charge of the school in general overall, but she doesn't have the time or energy. Most of us are based on a volunteer system, right? To make sure that all these little details are happening within the school. So what we do is we ask a principal mentor to step in and to be responsible for, I can take these glasses off, they're reflecting a lot. Be responsible for the quality of the school or of the group, okay? And so she is really responsible for the education part. So she's responsible to uphold the educational philosophy of the group. Now, what's the educational philosophy, you might ask, okay? So just like we talked about the chairman being responsible for the vision and the mission of the school, and I said I hope that those things are written down, that you have a purpose for your school and that it's written down and shared with everyone. The same thing with the principal mentor's job. Your group should have an educational philosophy. Now, that can be super, super detailed and minutely organized, or it could be something very simple. You might have a homeschool group that's just all about field trips. But those field trips, do you want to kind of define what kind of field trips fit into your educational philosophy and what kind of field trips do not? You may want that. And so you're going to write down, okay, our educational philosophy is field trips that encourage love of learning and growth in students, okay? Or field trips that give the students experiences that they wouldn't have if they stayed home. Okay, so get a little bit specific about what you want those field trips to do. Now, if we're talking about a school that is offering a lot of classes, some homeschool groups only offer electives, and you might want to define what those electives can look like within your school and what the aim is, what the goal is of those electives. Or if you're a group, a homeschool group that offers really a solid educational foundation for your students, then you need to put that in your educational philosophy. You need to define it, okay? It's really, really, really important to write it down so that then the principal mentor, she is going to make sure that that educational philosophy is upheld. Okay, so number 1 on that page in your workbook, it says the principal mentor is responsible to uphold the educational philosophy of the group. So do we understand what an educational philosophy is now? There's a lot of philosophies out there that are applicable to a group that has the core of their education happening within a homeschool group. One might be Charlotte Mason philosophy. That's very, very common, beautiful philosophy. Leadership education is a huge one. Montessori has their own educational philosophy, and you could have a homeschool group that was all based on Montessori stuff. So there's a lot of different things out there. If you wanted to do K-12, like the public school, but in a homeschool group, and you could do that. You just have to define it. You just have to say what it is, write it down, and explain it so that everybody understands what your group is about and they can get on board with it. Okay? So that's the first thing that the principal mentor is responsible for. The second thing we're going to talk about is that she helps to plan the upcoming year's classes and teachers. Okay, that's also in your workbook. So the principal mentor helps to plan the upcoming year's classes and teachers. Okay, so a lot of you are going to be done with this process already for next year, because we are starting to come to the end of the school year. It depends on where you live. I know where I'm at in St. George, Utah, we have one more month of public school, and our homeschool groups are ending around now. Up in Washington State, they actually have a whole nother month and a half, and a lot of their homeschool groups are going to continue for almost another month. So it just depends. Hey, I saw that. It just depends on where you live, what the current schedule is around you in your community, and what you guys have decided for your group. But within that, you do need to know that if you want to have a successful year, you pretty much have to start planning the school year in advance in the early spring, like February. Okay, that way you can be talking to people who are in the group at the time. Hey, can you teach this class? Or would you like to teach for next year? And a lot of that gets wrapped up and done before the school year's over. And that's really, really important. Okay. Okay, so it's her job, though, to make sure that that's happening. And it doesn't mean that she has complete autonomy over it, but it means that the principal mentor, she is going to be doing the majority of the work. So in a lot of our schools, she is going to be the head of a committee that's going to be putting all that stuff together. There's a lot of puzzle pieces going on, and she's going to be figuring all of that out with her committee, and then she's going to report all of her findings and her proposed schedule and proposed teachers to the board. And then they approve it, okay? And it might even go to the membership. It depends on your school and how it's structured, right? But that's her job, to lead that and make sure it happens. Okay, number 3, the third thing that your principal mentor, and the final thing that your principal mentor is responsible for, that defines her, is that she supports and serves the classroom teachers. Okay, so the principal mentor supports and serves. She is a servant leader, without a doubt. We'll go into that more later. But she supports and serves the classroom teachers in her school or her homeschool group or whatever you want to call it, okay? So now what we really did today just now is we went through not all 5 of those differences. So I'm gonna review those again really quick. But we dug really deeply into, glasses. Okay. Let's see, how do I end the slideshow? I think I do it with that. Yep, awesome. Okay, so we dug really far into number 1 and 2. So those of you who have the workbook, you can see those on the front page. Let me show you the workbook again. Benita's gonna put the link in so that you can go grab this. Let's see, need a better grip. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, so there's your front page, and then the workbook pages we've been talking through. There's your simple governing board. There's a new Commonwealth Schools governing board, what that looks like. And then the page that I just went through was right here. Okay, so let me just review these 5 points that are right here on the front page. These are the 5 differences. So if you didn't get the workbook yet, you can go ahead and write these down. Number 1, the chairman is in charge of business, while the principal mentor is in charge of education. Okay, so hopefully you got that from, boy, I can't take those off, can I? Hopefully you got that from what we talked about just now, was that the chairman is in charge of business and the principal mentor is in charge of education, the quality of education within the school. Number 2, the chairman is the macro, like she's the umbrella over the whole thing, right? While the principal mentor is micro. She has her own niche, her own space right there, and this is what she's over and responsible for, and it's her part of, and her stewardship for the board, okay? Everybody on the board has their own stewardship, okay? Number 3, the principal mentor is responsible for the educational continuity of the school or the group. We're going to talk about that more next week. We're going to go into it even deeper. We brushed over it, but we're going to go into it really deep next week. The principal mentor, number 4, regularly connects with the teachers. And we're going to talk about what that can look like 2 weeks from now. Okay, so keep your workbooks. We're actually going to update the workbooks each week, so they're going to have more and more pages that you can print off and staple them together, and you'll have a packet by the time we're done with these 4 different lives, okay? And then the last one, the principal mentor is primarily a mentor. So we're really going to define that in the 4th session. So today we did 1 and 2. We brushed over the other 3. Next week, we're going to go really deep dive into number 3. The principal mentor is responsible for the educational continuity of the school. And then the next week, we're going to do number 4. And then the final week, we're going to do number 5. So thanks, you guys, for being here and joining me. I'm hoping that this was well worth your time. We kept it super short. Didn't want to keep anybody from all of their responsibilities that you guys have at home. I know you've got kids who need you and such. So Benita put the link in there that you can go into to go get your workbook, and hopefully that's working. So Benita, were you able to get, let me just double check before we close up here. Whoops, I can't do that because it's not plugged in anymore. I guess I could use my There we go. That's the little noise saying, yeah, Brenda, you plugged me back in, and I'm so grateful to you. I purposely have a very small desk because I don't like it to get messy, and so, but there is a little bit of running around going on here. So what I'm just checking to see is, oh good, it did come through. Awesome. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that those links were all working, and it looks like they are. At least they worked for me, and they must work for Benita. So everybody can grab that. I'm just checking through the comments again to see if anybody has any questions. Jenny does. Is Principal Mentor only worrying about scholar classes or junior school too? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Jenny's talking about, a lot of the new Commonwealth schools, most of them, are divided into two separate schools, and they have the scholar school and then you have the junior school. The line, the delineation, is about 12 years old. So Jenny's referring to the junior school, and I'm going to tell you that we kind of mentioned this at the very beginning, but the junior school is run by the junior director. Now, she's not on the slides that I was showing you because I just didn't want to go into it and have it be confusing. We just wanted to talk about the difference between the principal mentor and the chairman. But yes, in most Commonwealth schools, the principal mentor is in charge of the scholar school, which is the classes that are designed for kids ages 12 and up. And the junior director is actually another person who's in charge of all the younger students. So thanks, Jenny, for pointing that out. Oh, and Benita answered her too right on there. So thank you, Benita. Okay, awesome. We're going to wrap it up. You guys can get back to whatever you were doing before this. And I will hopefully see you next Friday, same time, same place. Thanks, guys. Mwah! Love ya.